Were killed when a gunman opened fire inside an Indianapolis FedEx facility. The son of one of those victims, as well as two survivors, have filed a lawsuit against American Tactical, saying the distributor of the 60-round magazine used by the gunman was negligent. The suit argues American Tactical markets their products to young men who feel they need to harm others. The firearms industry has said manufacturers aren't at fault when people misuse their products. American Tactical told reporters Thursday they have no comment. Jill Nato, Fox News.
The National Rifle Association begins its annual convention Friday in Indianapolis. The event will draw some presidential politicking, as former President Trump is to speak to the group, as is former Vice President Mike Pence. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis will speak via a video conference. Apple says it's changing the way it makes its rechargeable device batteries to be more socially and environmentally conscious.
By 2025, Apple says it will use only recycled cobalt in the rechargeable batteries it manufactures for its phones, tablets, computers, and everything else. Cobalt is rare, often mined under exploitative conditions with child labor in Africa. Apple is just one of the companies that has been criticized for its reliance on mined cobalt. Their goal now is to use only recycled cobalt along with recycled gold plating and recycled soldering as part of their longer goal to manufacture entirely with renewables by the end of the decade. Eben Brown, Fox News.
Delta Airlines has reported $363 million in losses for the first quarter, blaming higher costs for labor and fuel, but says travel demand is still strong. The second quarter will be better. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
This spring, shop on over to the Micronesia Mall and enter to win. Redeem receipts totaling $10 or more. Scratch for a chance at instant prizes from Burger King or Foot Locker. Or receive a grand prize entry form for a drawing on May 6th for a chance to win a new Toyota Tacoma 4x4 SR5 off-road package with lift kit from Atkins Kroll Toyota. 10 lucky runners-up will get $250 gift certificates from Goodwin Travel and Tour for tickets to Philippine Airlines. Shop more, win more at the Micronesia Mall. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more.
Half a day. This is Claire Manglonia from Security Title with an important warning. Wire fraud is real, and home buyers and sellers are one of the biggest targets, even on Guam. When sending money by wire transfer, be sure to confirm the wire instructions by phone, not email. In this case, it's good to be suspicious and know who you're dealing with. Let the professionals at Security Title work with you to minimize loss due to wire fraud. We are here to help.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's Tall Tales Friday. If you're not wearing your tailgater t-shirt, it's okay. Just make sure you wear it tomorrow when you're out gadding about.
I found mine.
Okay, if Jose's wearing his tailgater shirt because he found it. Wow.
I think it was borrowed.
People will do that. They're highly prized, Jose.
Sought after, yes.
Absolutely.
And easily gained.
Absolutely. And I think probably right after the big halftime show, before we go to Luleon Guerrero, you can explain to the folks how they too can get their tailgater t-shirts and join us on Rogues Gallery.
That will indeed happen.
All right. So let's go straight to Zemi Ikotny. What used to be one of the prime features of Tall Tales has degenerated down to kind of an aw shucks. And one thing that the Daily News writes an editorial about every other day, which is 1,000 times more than the Guam Daily Post does it. But one thing that the Daily News editorial, what effect it's had on me is that I think maybe I should start bringing a thermos of coffee with me in the afternoon. Because my usual routine is I'm up at dark 30 in the morning. I'm out on my front porch with my iPad. I'm listening to the Ray Gibson show. I'm snorkeling down coffee, and I'm usually pretty well caffeinated by 8 o'clock in the morning, and that'll hold me all day long. But I'll tell you, reading these editorials would be a sleep inducer for the most woke person on the island, Jose. All right, here's what they call it today. Our view, the Conference on Island Sustainability encourages us to make better choices. And then there's a beautiful picture there. There's the governor and the lieutenant governor.
So you don't die, you live.
Exactly. Governor, Lieutenant Governor Tom Krice, and 3 other folks, all decked out in their island wear with leis and a sign, a banner behind them that says Sea Grant, University of Guam. So it's working. This whole sustainability thing is really working. They're having chautauquas at the Hyatt, free lunch, good photo ops, lots of earned media, plenty of time for the 2 politicians to press the flesh. I suppose Tom Krice, the governor, can whisper in Tom Krice's ear about McNinching folks at the university. It's just a wonderful workup. Yeah, and they should be so proud.
Nothing says sustainability like a government job.
And a government banquet, right? So here's how it goes. The 14th Annual Conference on Island Sustainability, hosted annually by the university, officially kicks off this week at the Hyatt Regency. This year's theme is Rediscover the Depths of Our Island Abundance. And the week-long conference. Yeah, how'd it go at work this week?
Week long?
Yeah, week-long conference. So how'd it go at work this week, Phil? Oh, I didn't have to work. We had a conference, so I just hung out at the Hyatt. It was great. Very comfortable. Lots of coffee, snacks, breakfast, lunch. Yeah, it was really good.
You know what's funny is usually a lot of these grants that are awarded have a sustainability clause. In other words, we're not going to fund this program again because you're supposed to sustain itself. This sustainability conference has been going on 14 years, and who keeps paying for it?
And it's not sustainable.
Nope.
Well, I guess it is sustainable.
A week long?
Yeah. Well, if it's lasted for 14 years,
Someone's making out.
It's sustainable, yeah. The week-long conference will be discussing a wide range of topics, including green economy, sustainable development, food security, climate change, all things that are fodder for the Tall Tales canon, affordable housing, youth empowerment, and more. It's funny they didn't mention equity in here somewhere, right? Attendees are encouraged to share their progress, innovations, and strategies to move to a more sustainable global future. UOG President Thomas Krice and Governor Lujan Guerrero are the co-chairs of the conference. Additionally, the keynote speaker will be Blue Planet Alliance founder Hank, not Hank, but Hank Rogers, and Guam attorney and author Julian Uggan, who founded Blue Ocean Law. The Conference on Island Sustainability aims to reach more people, and not just in our island community, to have discussions on ways to be more sustainable, a more sustainable island, and tackle issues such as climate change. Oh.
That's the word, that's the uncle for those climate alarmists. They couldn't say global warming. They couldn't say we're going to have an ice age. So it's climate change.
Yeah. Now, we always hear the word, quote, sustainability associated with environmental and agricultural topics. We're always reminded to be sustainable in order to help our island and possibly the earth. Oh. You know, on Earth Day, Jose, I'm just going to go outside and lay down and hug the earth. I love the earth so much. We are often asked to choose more sustainable living. Turn off those air conditioners. Turn off and go to sleep at when this gets dark. Go to sleep. Wake up when the sun comes up. Be sustainable. According to the United Nations, sustainable development means meeting the needs of the present, being able to exist now without compromising the ability of future generations to survive. Oh, they're on our side then, Jose. They're anti-abortionists. All right, I finally found something here that I can get behind.
Thinking the same thing.
Hooray
Good for them.
Hooray for the United Nations. You know, I ordinarily never have a good word for the United Nations, but I finally found some reason to cheer them on.
Wrong.
Yeah, wrong.
It couldn't last.
That's not what they mean.
Not at all.
No. Their idea of sustainability would be to abort as many babies as possible.
Population control.
Population control. Natural resources are not finite, and they need to be conserved in order to meet the needs of those in the future without having to sacrifice their quality of life. We'll talk about quality of life right after the big halftime show, won't we, Jose?
Sir.
Yeah, if people are not going to have a quality of life, yeah. Looking ahead into the future, if we do not maintain our ecosystems and if we fail to make sustainable choices, we could lose access to resources that contribute to our way of living. Fossil fuels will run out. Some animal species will face extinction, and we could lose food sources. The atmosphere will suffer from irreparable damage, causing the air quality to decrease. These effects from the lack of conservation would cost us our health, food, and resources to live. Currently, small islands and countries are leading the fight for sustainability and against climate change. Yeah, you know, small island like Nauru, man, they're really leading the fight down there in Nauru. Land is disappearing, with some islands being covered by water. But to balance that out, the Chinese are building islands in the Taiwan Strait and behind the first chain of islands. It's important for our community to shed a light on these issues before it's too late to go back and fix them. Thankfully, many of our islands have had a head start and have been advocating for living sustainably and spreading awareness on its importance. They haven't done anything, but they've been doing a lot of advocating at the Hyatt. Some residents grow their own garden, big or small, to produce food. Beach cleanups hosted by GVB and other organizations help to keep our island clean and protect our ecosystem. Renovations at a lot of gardens have been completed to provide more affordable housing.
What? When did Gora get into here?
More affordable. In other words, this is all about the governor.
Got it.
Yeah. And more affordable housing is a little bit off topic, gang. And there was a story in the paper. We've now completed the improvements on East Sangsong Road in Dadido. That really adds a lot to sustainability, Jose. I wonder what it takes to get a job writing editorials at the Daily News. Recycling, producing less waste, the ban on plastic bags, biodegradable packaging, and other measures have been contributing to a more sustainable community. And this week, the conference on Island Sustainable, the public is invited to attend through Saturday to learn and share insights into the ongoing discussions on ways to become a more sustainable island. Very timely. Nice going, Daily News. Now, I've got an item on the card here. Yeah, I got 3 of them that deal with the governor. I've got an item on the card here called Governor versus Us. But I'm going to bring it right up and add it into this portion, add it into the card. And here it goes. Guam joins alliance to reach 2045 climate goal. And there's a picture of Hank. There's part of this article. Video game visionary turned leading climate change advocate Hank Rogers made big waves Thursday morning at the University of Guam 2023 conference on island sustainability. The entrepreneur with a passion for clean energy brought Guam into the fold of his global initiative, the Blue Planet Alliance, to end all use of carbon-based fuels by 2045. You know what I'm going to do to help them in 2045, Jose?
I'll let you say.
I'm going to biodegrade.
There you go. Plant a garden near you,
Yeah.
near your bed.
Yeah. I found my mission in life, Rogers said during the conference at the Hyatt Regency. He recalled the time he first saw an article saying all the world's reefs would be destroyed by the end of the century. I moved to Hawaii when I was 18. I was surfing. I was diving. I was in love with the ocean and everything about the ocean. He told the audience that when he saw this, he immediately wanted to make an impact and enact positive change. Coral reefs are affected by ocean acidification, Rogers said, and ocean acidification is caused by carbon dioxide. I have a confession to make, Jose. You know, carbon dioxide is it's worse than the gas that they used at the gas chambers in Auschwitz, right? I'm a distributor. You want to see me create some carbon dioxide?
Well, in order to reduce my carbon dioxide, I've decided to produce carbon monoxide. It's only one.
It's only one, yeah. So every time you exhale, that's carbon monoxide.
Dioxide.
Well, I was just taking you at your word.
Got it.
Yeah. Every time I exhale, it's carbon dioxide. Jose has his own way of doing it, as usual, right? And if I remember high school biology, green plants absorb oxygen in the daytime and in effect exhale carbon dioxide at night. It's part of the process called, it's how you create chlorophyll. Wow, where's my memory here?
They take in carbon dioxide and put out oxygen.
Yeah.
Plant a tree.
Yeah, so plant a tree. The first mission to end the use of carbon-based fuel is the goal his Blue Planet Foundation in Hawaii was founded to achieve. He said he believes that before you ask anybody to clean their room, you have to clean your own room. I think that rule only applies after you're 25, Jose, if you're still living at home when you're 25, right? And if you're still living at home when you're 25 and you don't clean your own room, your parents will move you into the basement. But you can only stay there until you're 40. At first, the utilities didn't want to listen to me at all. How does Guam make electricity? By burning oil. Hawaii spent $5 billion a year on oil and $1 billion on coal. 30% of the oil goes to jet fuel and 30% to ground transportation. That leaves 40% or $2 billion of oil and $1 billion on coal. $3 billion. 1 million people. Do the calculation. It's the reason that our rents are high and our salaries are low. It's a reason that as an economy we struggle. Now I got to jump in here and make a comment, Jose. I don't buy into this global warming thing. We all have to impoverish ourselves in order to save the planet. But I do buy into saving money. And from what I understand about our power generation here on the island, GPA, and my understanding has greatly increased, we stopped burning high sulfur oil because the feds made us do it. It cost more money, but we had to do it anyhow. And we've invested a fair amount of money in solar panels. But the reason we're doing it is because we can save a lot of money, right? The guys over at the Power Authority are not singing this global warming song. They're saying this is what your rates are going to look like in 2024 because of the things that we've done. And we've done it in such a manner that you're going to have power from now until then. And they played it smart instead of embracing the dogma and forgetting everything else, which is what this guy wants us to do. In 2015, Rogers noted that Hawaii passed the mandate to go 100% renewable by 2045, which coincides with the 100th anniversary of the United Nations. I don't feel bad about not being there for that.
This is just like, man, my face is going to get stuck like this if we keep reading these kind of articles.
Okay, Jose, ready? Unfrown.
Oh,
The foundation worked to change the business model of utilities in Hawaii, which Rogers said came out to almost half the cost of utilities for the customer. That's how things get sorted out when you have a free market. If you can do it for less money and the service is good, you don't have to beat them over their ideological heads and make them feel guilty because they live in the 21st century instead of the 19th century. We're on track. Hawaii's on track. We have today reached our 2030 goal, which was 40% renewable energy. We're already there because we've got the right incentives in place. Hawaii's moving really fast, Rogers said proudly.
wow.
Yeah.
Talk about tone deaf.
Uh-huh.
He hasn't read the news of the past 2 years of Hawaii, has he?
How everybody's leaving. About, like
the cost
a huge,
of living.
and the huge percentage of people are saying this tourism thing is ruining our island, right? It's not Hawaii anymore. And that was my reaction when I came back. I visited an old friend before the pandemic because we always we're going through Tokyo routinely. And when I came back, I said, whatever charm Honolulu has had is gone. Honolulu is now just Chicago with palm trees. There's no sense going there anymore.
Yeah, it's as crowded as New York City.
It's crowded, it's expensive, it's noisy. We had rooms on the 33rd floor of the Ala Moana with a balcony. I went out on the balcony and you could hear that city noise, tire noise, air conditioning, just a city noise, 33 floors up. Yeah, so I'm done with Hawaii. You can have it. I'm going to give you a quitclaim deed to all my right, title, and interest in Hawaii, Hank Rogers. You can have it. And then he goes on. There are several programs within the initiative. Let's see. He said the foundation is working to make agreements with countries to reach the 100% renewable energy goal. The last part is execution, which is the stage Hawaii's in right now, to make sure it actually happens. The worst thing that we can do is set a goal and then not achieve it. We have to achieve it. That's the whole point, especially since Hawaii is the model. We cannot fail in Hawaii. There are several programs within the initiative, such as an ambassador program and a fellows program. Whoa! A fellows program? How about a ladies program?
We can still one of those in.
This is discrimination. This is not inclusive, Jose. That engage the youth to push against the status quo. Young leaders are brought to Hawaii to be put on a fast-track program to work with partners such as the East-West Center, the University of Guam, and the Obama Foundation. You kind of see where all of this stuff comes from, can't you?
That's not a red flag. That's a huge banner.
Yeah, Santa Claus should like this. That's a large amount of fireworks going off right on the page here. Joining the alliance, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero has agreed to sign the Blue Planet Climate Agreement, and University of Guam President Thomas Kreis has agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding for the University of Guam to advance the leadership components in education.
Don't they learn? Don't people learn from years and years of these kind of racketeering groups and organizations?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Exactly. And when did when did we ever, all those in favor of joining this Blue Alliance, when did I ever get to raise my hand or go like this?
None.
Never.
She thinks we're still in a sole executive authority health emergency.
You have no choice. This is so sick. And Thomas Kreis agreed to sign a memorandum. I wonder what the Board of Regents thought about that.
And I wonder where he's going to be in 2045.
Yeah.
Not Guam.
No. I wonder where he's going to be in 2024. Not Guam.
Not Guam either.
Yeah, he's packing out. Austin Shelton, the brother of Senator Shelton, director of the UOG Center for Island Sustainability and Sea Grant during the said during the conference. Oh, he's the one that made this announcement. It wasn't even the governor and Thomas. It was Austin making the announcements. I'm so glad he's out there, and I'm so glad that Amanda was able to get that grant, that appropriation through for
Funding
his
spigot.
Yeah, for his shop. Yeah, it paid off because they had this great conference. This great conference at the Hyatt. Now they were starting out on the second day of the GPA conference, so they took over the big conference room at the Hyatt, and they bunged us out to the WAPs, the two little conference top size. But it was okay because we had breakout sessions, so it was all right. But I saw the fancy photo op. Kyle Mandapat was part of it. Yeah, he works for this whole sustainability latch up.
That's right, UOG.
Yeah, at the university. Well, at least he's got one real job. Yeah, he is the most famous, the most popular, and one of the best DJs on the island. He was Pika's best for this year. Kyle Mandapat, great guy.
And for that radio station, it was Star 101. Hear a choice.
There you go. Right here at Choice.
Right here at Choice.
All right. More countries continue to join the alliance, according to Rogers. Both Tonga and Tuvalu last year signed agreements to achieve 100% renewable energy goal by 2025. And I suppose as soon as our governor signed, we will have agreed.
I can't believe we're being colonized by the UN.
And by Hank Rogers. Yeah. The Blue Planet Climate Agreement says whereas the parties are committed to achieving this climate restoring benchmark, and whereas the parties are committed to working together to create a world in which humanity and nature live in harmony, therefore the parties agree to work together to ensure that Guam can achieve renewable energy production through wind, solar, ocean thermal, wave resources, and decrease its reliance on oil and fossil fuels, Rogers said. That's what the governor's going to sign. And the memorandum of understanding is very simple. The parties agree to work together to create a world in which humanity and nature live in harmony. That's all it takes. Yeah, this, I've got to start not only bringing a thermos of coffee, I got to start bringing an antiemetic with me because this makes me want to throw up, Jose.
A tranquilizer for me because I'm a little worked up.
It really is sad. All of this left-wing propaganda, and of course, you know what the other really strong point of this? This is real democracy. Because democracy is a word that has been redefined. Democracy means anything the wokesters and folks on the left like. It has nothing to do with government by the people. Obviously, when the governor says, I'm going to sign that memorandum for the people.
And that's the problem, is that I have no problems with these people coming out here and talking about whatever they want to talk about, doing their fairy tales and their future predictions and stuff. Fine, because if you want to buy into it, buy into it. But when our leader, our executive branch, signs up the island to do it, we didn't ask you to do that.
No.
In fact, we had no idea that you would be signing over us to this group.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be that way because it's going to look like the sustainability thing, but it's just pouring funds from us into them.
And this guy, Hank Rogers, understands earned media. Here's his picture right here. He knows earned media.
He did it to Hawaii. Why not Guam?
So you'll look forward to see stuff about Guam joining here in wire service stories.
That's kind of like a carpetbagger.
He certainly is. Yeah, he certainly is. So, and I agree with you. If they want to come, they can talk about whatever. They can talk about this junk all day long if they want to. And as per Voltaire, although I disagree what they say, I will defend to the death their right to say it. Just don't include me in your stupid rap. All right, let's take a break, Jose.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
Card? Yeah. Okay, let's take a peek at the card here. Jose's going to bring my card in here. I wasn't able to find it in my super filing system here. Yeah, thanks, Jose. So this is what I got on the card today. Of course, we start out with systemic racism. Public Law 36-34. I've got to wind up Governor versus Doug, Tall Tales versus the DJ, with a little bit more concentration on my brief. Next, we've got Brown versus the Rules Committee, the Governor versus the Budget, Governor versus Us, which I just covered, so that's off the calendar. I've got Edsel versus the Tennessee House, Roy versus Democracy, Chris versus the Governor, Left versus Democracy. I probably won't get that far anyhow. So with respect to my brief, you'll recall that yesterday I read a couple parts of it. It is legal and it's a little bit complicated, and it winds up by saying this. Mr. Klitzkie urges the court not to join in the fight between the Attorney General and the Governor. Let them fight. Let them risk their political capital. Let them trade horses and come to a deliberate decision that nobody is happy with, but most can live with. Let the people of Guam have a representative government responsive to their voices. Force the politicians to do their job by denying them the help they do not deserve here. Otherwise, the court is just going to enable continuing grandstanding, which is what this whole declaratory judgment thing is, which I explained yesterday. Conclusion. For the reasons given above, Mr. Klitzkie urges the court to dismiss this request due to a lack of jurisdiction or refrain from determining the questions presented. Let the parties fight. Now, jurisdiction is one of the most important words in the legal vocabulary. A court can't do anything unless it has jurisdiction. So when a matter comes before a court, from time to time, you'll see a motion to dismiss because the court doesn't have jurisdiction. So then you got to kind of catch-22. How can the court determine that it doesn't have jurisdiction when it doesn't have jurisdiction? And the answer to that is that a court always has jurisdiction to determine its jurisdiction, even if the determination is we ain't got no jurisdiction, right? Jurisdiction, a court has to find that it has jurisdiction. In the federal court, you have to plead jurisdiction. You have to show what statute brings you before the federal court or you're out on your butt. Jurisdiction is so important that a jurisdictional defect can be raised even on appeal. You could have a case that went through trial at the district court, on appeal to a court of appeals, certiorari granted, goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and someone raises a jurisdictional defect for the first time. If the Supreme Court sees it, that's it. Very, very powerful. So one of the things that I said at the end of my brief that I just read, I'll read it one more time, urges the court to dismiss this request for an advisory opinion due to a lack of jurisdiction. And the whole brief points out that the Supreme Court, our Supreme Court, is hoist with its own petard. If you don't know what that means, I'll explain it sometime, but it means you got blown up by your own bomb, right? Because in a couple of cases, most notably, Ken Leon Guerrero, or the one that we know the most about, Ken Leon Guerrero brought suit pursuant to a local law that says a resident taxpayer has standing to challenge improper government spending. Statute says you got standing. All you got to do is say, I live on Guam, and I'm telling you that there has been some improper government spending, and you have standing. That case got to our Supreme Court, and our Supreme Court said, sorry, that law does not give you standing. In order to get before the courts of Guam, you must have what federal courts call Article 3 standing. In federal court, you have to allege an immediate concrete injury that takes place in what is called a case or controversy. And if you don't do that, regardless of what it is that you're complaining about, you're out. So you could have something that is a really egregious violation of the law. And if all you're doing there is saying, hey, this is wrong, I don't like what the government's doing, make them stop. If you can't show how it hurts you, then you don't have standing. How it hurts you and how a favorable result would make you whole, then you don't have standing. That's what Article 3 of the United States Constitution says. I got it right here. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and such inferior courts as the Congress may establish, etc. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, etc., so on. And where's the part I'm looking for here?
I have something up here that cites Fairchild versus Hughes and Massachusetts versus Mellon.
Do Massachusetts versus Mellon.
It just says a summary says, which together establish that plaintiffs cannot sue the government in federal court if they fail to allege that they were specifically injured by or face imminent injury from unlawful government conduct. This rule, as the court explained in Fairchild, that's Fairchild here.
Yeah. So Massachusetts versus Mellon, I've talked about before. There was one of these deals where the United States invented the way to bribe states, and they created this welfare program where they would give money to Massachusetts so long as Massachusetts agreed to do certain things. And what was the guy's name again?
I just see they don't have a name on here. Mellon is the
defendant.
Yeah. The petitioner is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but I'm not seeing a name here.
Yeah, there were two cases. One was Massachusetts versus Mellon, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but that's where the Supreme Court invented this standing doctrine. They said, you're, as a taxpayer, such injury to you as there is fungible and so widespread and so de minimis, you don't have standing to raise this issue before the courts of the United States. So that's what Article 3 standing means. So our Supreme Court said you have to have the same standing to use the courts of Guam, notwithstanding that we have a statute that says a resident taxpayer has standing to raise improper government spending, and notwithstanding that nothing in our Organic Act would lead you to believe that Article 3 standing is required. So my brief says you can't have it both ways. If you want to do declaratory judgments like the one that's before you right now, there's a fight between the Attorney General and the governor, neither of which is injured by this one way or the other, then you've got to go back and reverse you have to find that your decision in one of the airport cases and in Leon Guerrero's cases were wrong because they did have standing. You can't do it both ways. You can't say, you got to have Article 3 standing unless it's something we want to do. And that's basically what my brief says in so many words. Okay, I will keep you posted on this as we maneuver along. Next item on the card is a short break, and then we're going to come back to Brown versus Rules.
Day. This is Clara Manglona from Security Title with an important warning. Wire fraud is real, and home buyers and sellers are one of the biggest targets, even on Guam. When sending money by wire transfer, be sure to confirm the wire instructions by phone, not email. In this case, it's good to be suspicious and know who you're dealing with. Let the professionals at Security Title work with you to minimize loss due to wire fraud. We are here to help. I think probably we better come back to systemic racism. I kind of skipped over that part of the card. I don't know if I have to talk about it very much today. I think everybody kind of gets the point on what systemic racism is. It's the narrative versus the truth. We're faced all of the time with the narrative. A good example would have been the Daily News editorial. That the narrative is that everybody agrees about global warming and sustainability, and we're so happy that the governor is signing these papers and our university is committing us to something we just heard about today.
And everything out of the UN is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, only one item here on the public law 3634 part of the agenda. This is the Guam Cancer Trust Fund Council meeting, and I've gone through this before. 7 items on the agenda. This is how it reads. 1, call to order. 2, report from the chair. 3, report from GCTF program manager. 4, old business. 5, new business. 6, open discussion information. 7, adjournment. Doesn't work. Now, according to our Supreme Court, if I were to challenge one of the things that they've done here, I would not have standing. So unless they straighten this out, only someone who could challenge something that was in an agenda where the agenda item caused them an injury could challenge that agenda. So let's say that you had a contract. Let's say that you're Menzies and JLS, right? And and the contractors licensing board fines for Menzies, and they screwed up their agenda. And it's not JLS, it's JL something or other, would have standing to raise the issue, but nobody else would, which is too bad.
But if they left it blank, that means it's an open game, right?
Yeah, really. Okay, so going on here to Brown versus Rules, and there's a story in the Post that I'll come back to, but I want to start out with this. Republican members on the Rules Committee opposed each motion. Rules Committee operates on motions, right? Depriving the committee of the 7 votes needed to pass a motion. The motions dealt with what should go on the agenda for the next session. So every one of the motions to place items on the agenda failed. That is until Senator Amanda Shelton arrived about an hour into the meeting. You know, I
It's just dirty.
yeah, and everything she does, it's all always comes out of the same place. Money for her brother, canceling Jesse Lujan's oversight hearing 6 minutes before it's supposed to start, not entertaining.
It's self-centered.
Yeah, it's all about Amanda Shelton and her particular interests. Not good, Amanda Shelton. So she's an hour late for the meeting. She's a committee member.
What happened to passing Amanda Shelton?
Yeah. And, you know, every time somebody talks about a part-time, there's so much work to do, and we have to work. So, yeah, but we never show up on time for things.
She couldn't bother to be there at all.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a little clip here dealing with Sabina Paris. Now, the Rules Committee meets before session, and the Rules Committee, at that meeting, the major thing that they do is decide which bills are going to go on the agenda for the next session. So when the session is called to order, you know, they go through the Guam Handman, the invocation, et cetera, et cetera. And then the one of the first items is motions, and someone moves, I move the agenda, and they go down that agenda that they've agreed to previously. So that was the purpose of this meeting. Okay. Now, as a general, well, the rule is that every bill has to have a public hearing. We all know that, with a very small exception. That is only used if it means putting money in senators' pockets. And that before a bill is ready to be placed on the agenda, its committee report must be finished. Finished means that all the papers are put together and members of the committee have signed. And a member of the committee can assign do pass, report out only, do not pass. And unless a majority of the committee members sign do pass or report out only, there's nothing for the Rules Committee to do because there's nothing to put on the agenda. So they went through this, and motions were made to put items on the agenda. And as we go through this, you'll understand why there weren't 7 people voting for them until Amanda Shelton comes running in. We got to start over. So they did motions to reconsider and re-voted on all of them, all in the name of democracy, right? This is the Democrat Party. Okay, let's watch Sabina Paris and her approach to an orderly set of proceedings.
Any more appointments? Oh, yes, Senator Paris, my vice chair, you are recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I understand the discussion that's happening right now. But there is an instance in the Guam EPA board. They currently have 4 members, so they can't meet a quorum. They haven't met quorum this month, and it's essential that they meet quorum. And we do have a nominee, Daniel A. Taiting Fong, whose hearing is tomorrow morning. And we will expeditiously work to get this nominee onto the committee report up by this weekend, hopefully, or submit it by this weekend, in order to close this gap. Without the quorum, Guam EPA cannot act on notice of violations. And there are certain things in the community that they're expecting for action to take place with this board. So this is a critical one. I would like to make the motion to put the nomination of Daniel A. Taiting Fong as member of the Board of Directors for Guam Environmental Protection Agency on the potential list.
Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, you know, when the public hearing on Mr. Taiting Fong is set for?
Sorry, today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she makes this motion, and the guy hasn't even had a public hearing.
Hmm.
You know, we don't need 15 people to do this.
This is not in a clip, but there was an objection, and then she responded to the objection by saying, well, you know, I've looked over Mr. Taitefong, and I vetted him, but I'm sure you guys will like him, too, at the public hearing. So it's already been decided.
Yeah.
That's not how this process goes.
No, it isn't. Now, let's suppose that Daniel Taitefong, that they have the hearing today, and let's say that you've got several people who come in and say Daniel Taitefong is a sexual molester, that he's a crook, that he's a dirty skunk and an honorary pig stealer, and on and on and on. And all the testimony is unfavorable, right? This would go into a committee report, right? The committee report would be a public document. Now, if a senator wants to vote to confirm that guy, there's nothing that binds the senator to bad news in a committee report. But this is the way the process works. And she's got, well, there's, you know, I'm going to help out EPA. So the hearing's going to be tomorrow, and I like the guy. You're going to like him. So what do we have to worry about these silly rules for? Can't we just do what we want to do?
This is the bottom line, people.
Yeah.
It's an appointee by the governor, I'm assuming.
Of course.
And they sat on this, but now the legislature has to fix it by skirting the rules.
Exactly.
So the governor gets off scot-free.
Exactly. Yeah, let's break for the big halftime show, and we'll come back to the governor.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Suspected leaker due in court. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Jack Teixeira, the 21-year-old Air National Guardsman arrested yesterday, scheduled to be arraigned in federal court in Boston today after he was picked up by the FBI in North Dayton, Massachusetts.
What a source briefed on the investigation is telling Fox News is that Teixeira was actually surveilled by the FBI. FBI agents planned to arrest him at another venue at another time, but actually made this arrest after news reporters showed up to this property connected to his family. It really accelerated things, so they had to go in and make the arrest over fear that he may have harmed himself or flee.
Fox's David Spunt, the FBI and the Pentagon apparently had not detected that secret intelligence documents were posted in an online chat room for weeks, but Attorney General Garland nonetheless congratulated them.
I want to thank the FBI, Justice Department prosecutors, and our colleagues at the Department of Defense for their diligent work on this case.
Teixeira will be charged with violations of the Espionage Act. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has signed into law a bill that would outlaw abortions in the state after a fetal heartbeat can be detected, usually after about 6 weeks gestation. Whether the law can be enacted hinges on a court challenge to the state's current abortion ban at 15 weeks into a pregnancy. Firefighters in Richmond, Indiana have finally brought a fire in a storage facility for plastic recyclables under control. Evacuation orders have yet to be lifted, though, for the more than 1,000 residents near the plant who are ordered away from their homes out of fears they could be poisoned by toxic smoke. President Biden concludes his trip to Ireland today with visits to more historical sites after telling the Ireland House of Parliament yesterday.
Like so many countries around the world, though perhaps more than most, the United States was shaped by Ireland, and that's not hyperbole.
The president will fly to Delaware on Friday night. America is listening to Fox News.
Always here to help you. This island is our home. Through the years, we've been a friend to the neighbors we have known. Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
As you plan for your summer vacations this year, remember to pack plastic money or digital currency, as many of the country's parks say they are going cashless.
Death Valley National Park doesn't want your cash when you go to pay your entrance or camping fees. They want you to make a digital or credit card payment instead. The reason? It costs them a lot of money to process cash payments. Last year, the park collected $22,000 in cash, but they had to pay over $40,000 for armored cars and for time spent by park rangers to count money and process paperwork. Washington's Mount Rainier National Park also going cashless, as is Badlands National Park in South Dakota, Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore in Michigan, and many more. Get details by checking out recreation.gov. Jill Nato, Fox News.
In Philadelphia, thieves have stolen about $750,000, 10 cents at a time, breaking into a truck that was carrying millions of dimes that were being shipped by the Mint. Police are hoping that somebody will drop a dime on the thieves. Experts are warning many Americans have an addiction that many of them aren't even aware of to their devices.
Do you reach for your phone first thing in the morning or right before bed? If you said yes, you're not alone. Experts say a large majority of Americans do that exact same thing, to the point where people are increasingly becoming addicted to their devices, spending up to 5 hours a day or more on their phones. Specialists say the average American checks their phone about 400 times a day in most cases, which breaks down to once every 2 minutes. For teens, the statistics are even more concerning. 66% of teens admit to feeling anxious when they don't have their smartphone. That's why some states are now taking action. Utah recently passed a bill to limit kids' social media access in hopes it will help keep them off their phone. In New York, I'm Alexis McAdams, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Fly even higher and get to your destination with the United Credit Card from First Hawaiian Bank. You can earn 40,000 miles with $2,000 worth of spending within the first 3 months. That's 40,000 reasons to get on board with the First Hawaiian Bank United Credit Card. It all starts with yes. Certain restrictions apply. To learn more about this offer, visit any First Hawaiian Bank branch or go to fhb.com/United. This spring, shop on over to the Micronesia Mall and enter to win. Redeem receipts totaling $10 or more. Scratch for a chance at instant prizes from Burger King or Foot Locker. Or receive a grand prize entry form for a drawing on May 6th for a chance to win a new Toyota Tacoma 4x4 SR5 off-road package with lift kit from Atkins Scroll Toyota. 10 lucky runners-up will get $250 gift certificates from Goodwin Travel and Tour for tickets to Philippine Airlines. Shop more, win more at the Micronesia Mall. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
exciting glance at the Rogues Gallery here of Tall Tales. Jose, you know what I'm going to ask you to do, so can you just go ahead and do it?
Sure thing, Bob. You too can become an I'm a Tailgater Rogues Gallery participant by going to thepoint.gu, the official website of this radio station, because there you will find a picture of an I'm a Tailgater t-shirt sporting a beard. If you click on that picture, it'll take you to where you can order that shirt, and when it arrives, you put it on, take a selfie, and send that selfie to the Points WhatsApp at 671-797-8255, and you too can be a part of the big halftime show Rogues Gallery.
Very good, Jose. We've got the Lulian Guerrero infanticide portion of the program coming up next, but I noticed a guy named Bruce wants some free legal advice here, right? So what do you think? You think maybe in order to be eligible for free legal advice, you ought to be on Rogues Gallery?
I concur.
Yeah, a t-shirt only costs you around $20. That's some pretty cheap legal advice, right? Yeah, well, we'll take that under advisement. That may become the new rule, but we'll listen to hear what you got to say, Bruce, and see if we can help you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you are a licensed attorney here on Guam. Is that correct?
I'm the one that asks the questions here, Bruce.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm having a hard time with this. Hold on a second. My volume's acting screwy. Hold on. Hold on. Come on. Okay, all right. So, well, anyway.
You got to turn your radio, Bruce. You got to turn your radio off. I'm getting feedback.
Well, I was trying to find out what was going on with my phone. Anyway, so okay. So a little background. I am a real estate appraiser here on Guam. I've been in practice for over 20 years, and there's a thing that makes it very difficult for us to do our job. It's called an affidavit of true consideration. And it happens when you do a real estate transaction. You tell them what you actually pay for something, and it gets locked in a vault and nobody knows about it. Now, the problem occurs when we, as a member of the Mobile Listing Service MLS committee here on Guam, we our closed sales, and we say we can't because the actual what somebody paid for something is not public knowledge. Are you with me so far?
I'm still there, yeah. I'm working on my listening skills, Bruce. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, let me put it back to my ear. Speaker thing isn't working. I don't know why. Anyway, so you with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, in every other part of the, at least the United States anyway, recorded what somebody paid for something is a matter of public record, and it primarily drives the tax base. What I'm saying on Guam is that I think the affidavit of true consideration was something that was created by certain families on Guam that didn't want to admit how much they owned of what.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, I'm asking because I've been doing some research online, the law library, and they're trying to send me the public library to comb through boxes and boxes of legislative materials. I can't find anywhere in law that says that the affidavit of true consideration is a real thing, or that it's required, or what's required to that it's kept safe and locked up and blah blah blah, whatever. Okay. So what I was asking was if you as an attorney had ever handled any property issues, and if you'd come across this particular thing.
Never have. I have a passing familiarity with it, but I always thought the reason for it was that standard languages in a deed is for $10 and other good and valuable considerations, A, deeds Blackacre to B. And of course,
Right.
the money changing hands was more than $10. So in order to properly assess the real property tax, this affidavit of true consideration had to be put together. Now, my recollection is that this is something that came along in the late 60s, but I'm not really up to speed on it. And I would suspect that if it exists anywhere, it's in, I think it's Title 11 that deals with taxation, doesn't it?
So Title 11 does deal with taxation.
There is a title in the Guam Code Annotated that deals with taxation, and the real property tax would be in there. So I would, if you haven't looked there, that would be the place to start, because if there is a public law, they'll give, I mean, if there is a codified section, they'll give you the public law reference. And that's that. And hey, Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a rule here. Only one of us talks at a time. Usually that's me, but not always. So with that public law reference, then you could dig up committee reports and whatever else is relevant to the question. If there is no public law that created it, then you need to look at the Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations and see if the Director of Rev Tax enacted a rule through our administrative adjudication law that required that. Then you go back to the enabling legislation for that rule and see if the rule conforms with the enabling legislation. If there's no rule, then it must come under that general heading of, well, we've always done it that way.
Yeah, we've always done it that way, so we're going to continue doing it that way.
Mm-hmm. Governments tend to be that way. One of the most powerful forces in government is inertia.
Right. Well, and that's the reason I brought it up to the committee, and the committee asked me to look into it, was because I, as an appraiser, have a vested interest in knowing what people pay for properties.
I can understand that. But I could also
in order to do my job.
I could also understand taxation authorities saying, all we want to know is how much money changed hands. We don't want to get involved with real estate transactions. Therefore, we'll take that. I suppose you have to turn that in when you record the deed, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll just sequester that document and use it for taxation purposes only. Like, you can't look at somebody else's gross receipts tax forms or somebody's income tax forms. Perhaps the policy basis lies in the same area.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a good place to start. Okay. Appreciate that.
Say again?
I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, when are you going to buy your T-shirt, Bruce?
I don't know.
Yeah, just listening to you, it sounds like the colors would fit you well. You'd look good in a tailgater T-shirt.
What are the colors?
Black and red.
Black and red.
Black, red, and gold.
So go to the Point GU and look into it. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Hope we could help you, Bruce. Talk to you later.
Take care.
So long. Yeah, so where was I here, Jose? I got a couple more callers. You probably want to ask more free legal advice, huh? Yeah, we're gonna have to have show and tell before we do the legal advice, not give the legal advice and then suggest, well, maybe you should buy a T-shirt now. And let me see what I got here. I've got Frenchie wants to talk about second caller sustainable blue wave economy. And Vince wants to talk about Eagles Field contract expiration. Well, nobody wants to talk about the Rules Committee. I'm just starting. It's a really interesting story. So, Jose, I think we better entertain these two, and then we'll go to the Lou Leon Guerrero show. Starting out with Frenchie. Tell me, Frenchie, about sustainable blue wave economy.
Well, this morning when I was reading the paper, I had the same reaction than you, reading that article. And then I was listening to the show earlier, and I said, well, it's not so much that they are tone deaf on the climate, but it's more like it's almost like a new religion, the green new religion. And what they do not, they never put in the balance is the fact that we used to be energy independent country, and that now we are killing our independence by death by overregulation coming from the Biden administration. And this week we had another example of that, and they are zillion of examples. But the new regulations on car that Biden just put out, and that the auto industry threw their eyes to the sky and said, this is ridiculous. We cannot do all that all at once. And basically, now we have a manipulation of the economy in order to force the country to embrace the green energy. Like electrical car, I'm not against it on the principle of it, but then what we are seeing is that we are destroying our own car economy and industry by forcing new regulation in order to advance this thing. And what this guy in the paper today was basically saying was, we need to change the paradigm even if we don't like it. And nobody, like you on the line, we didn't sign for it, but those guys are volunteering us to agree with them. And this is totally dictatorial, the way they're doing it. And we are being diverted from those essential issues. And I will show you that those green religion issues is part of a larger plan that is imposed on us by the Biden administration and by other NGOs. So while we are diverted by the transphobia and the CRT and all those things, we are not looking at the real issue, and we have two real major issues. One, and that we found out a couple of weeks ago, is the new Pentagon papers. And maybe later on you can explain people what the first Pentagon papers were under LBJ and how that forced Johnson not to run for a second time. But basically, the government has lied to us about the Ukrainian conflict, about what is happening there, and now we are running after the guy that leaked the documents. But basically, we have spent more money in 1 year in Ukraine, billions and billions of taxpayer money, in order to support a pro-Nazi government who has never been democratic and who has always been very corrupt. And in order to sustain that government, we spend more money in 1 year than we spent in 22 years in Afghanistan. And that's very scary. If you add this to have a perfect storm to the upcoming financial collapse that we are facing, which is the second imminent danger, which is the banking crisis that suddenly has totally disappeared from the front page of the newspapers, but is still there because the banks are really not healthy. They owe a lot of money. And for example, ESV, the Silicon Valley, or the SVB Bank, the largest investors in there was BlackRock, with billions of dollars. And when you know who Vanguard and BlackRock's are, and few people follow that, I know you do, they are investment managers. Now, a lot of people don't understand what investment managers do, but they're basically running the retirement funds for all the administrations and the cities and everything that are invested in the stock market, and they're trying to keep those retirement funds afloat by investing wisely. Unfortunately, those investment funds have become political tool to blackmail the stock market when they started inventing ESG. Now, a lot of people don't know what ESG mean. It's a short for environmental social governance, okay? So environmental, and this is where it ties with what this gentleman was talking at that conference, is the climate change, natural resource, pollution and waste, and biodiversity. On the social side, you have human rights, supply chain standard, labor management, health and safety, and there you can tie the COVID-19 crisis, which is exactly what it was, and human capital development. That's a big word that covers the mass immigration of people from foreign countries to northern countries in order to influence the labor market and depress the wages down. And that's why, for example, in France, 2 weeks ago, the demonstrator invaded BlackRock's headquarters in Paris and set it on fire, because people understand that while we are busy looking at the transsexual on Bud Lights, the people in Europe understand a lot better what the issues are, which are the raiding by corporate management funds of their own retirement fund. And what they have been playing, those investment companies have been playing a Ponzi scheme and borrowing from Paul to pay Peter. And right now, with the collapse of the banks, we saw Credit Suisse in Switzerland, which had to be bought under the government auspices by UBS, which is another large Swiss bank. But basically, it's all down to toxic loans that were given to those large investment funds who are trying to switch their investment, and because they no longer can pay those pension funds. Now you can imagine is somebody like Vanguard or BlackRock suddenly had to collapse, all those city government, state, the federal employees retirement fund would suddenly collapse, and we would have millions of people that are retired on those pension funds that would no longer have their money. This is huge. And if you look at it, all those things are all tied up to the WEF, which for people that don't know is the World Economic Forum, which are those globalist movements that are trying to change our economy. Well, in the meantime,
I think,
the dollar...
Frenchie, I think we're talking about Klaus Schwab.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I know nothing, Klaus Schwab, but what has happened the last 3 weeks, if you have followed, you have seen that China has done a total realignment of policies in the Middle East, which were our clients and the people who protected from one another. And suddenly you have Saudi Arabia, which we were controlling through Aramco, which is the Arab American petroleum company, and who is now aligned with the Chinese, and they have made peace with Iran, which has been at odds with the U.S. since the fall of the Shah under Jimmy Carter, and the war in Ukraine, where, you know, which has basically isolated us from what used to be called the non-aligned countries
You know, Frenchie, this is all really very interesting, but I was hoping that you'd pick up on our local conference here and bash the Red Queen for signing bash the Red Queen for signing on to the Blue Initiative. Can you do that?
Well, I was going to finish that. Is because of all those things. Things are never in a vacuum. This is what's happening outside of Guam. And we have a danger is the collapse of the U.S. dollar that is no longer, since 1972, would no longer be the trade currency. This would impact Guam greatly because this will make our cost of energy a lot higher, no matter what kind of energies we have. And the technology that is no longer an American technology, but a Chinese technology. So when the Red Queen makes those unilateral decisions without really consulting with the rest of the economists and without putting in place, and she should know better as a banker, she should know better than to do that kind of silliness, because it's really putting Guam in an even more precarious situation than we are now. And that's, when the yuan, which is the Chinese currency, and it's based on gold standard, will overtake us as a dollar, we will have to realign ourselves for our energy and everything. And the Red Queen as a banker should know a lot better than trying to shut people up.
The Red Queen should know a lot better than doing most of the stuff she does. Hey, Frenchie, I got to head for Wrigley Field, but
yeah, go ahead.
As usual, very enlightening. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Half a day. This is Claire Manglona from Security Title with an important warning. Wire fraud is real, and home buyers and sellers are one of the biggest targets, even on Guam. When sending money by wire transfer, be sure to confirm the wire instructions by phone, not email. In this case, it's good to be suspicious and know who you're dealing with. Let the professionals at Security Title work with you to minimize loss due to wire fraud. We are here to help.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they will continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $4,100 by calling Family Finance in Hagåtña at 671-475-4545, Upper Tumon 671-647-5626, or in Dededo 671-633-4473.
So here we are. I've got Vince in the green room. He wants to talk about Eagles Field. I hope he doesn't want to talk about the original landowners. And then when I look out into the back of the classroom, I see our Carl in the back of the classroom raising his hand, waving madly. He wants to talk about climate. So I'm going to go with Vince and then our Carl. Vince, tell me about Eagles Field.
Hello, Bob?
Yeah.
I think you punched the wrong button. This is Carl.
Oh, okay. Well, let me put you back on hold, and I'm going to go to Vince. Push the wrong button. Can you put him back on hold, Jose? Yeah, okay. Is this the real Vince?
That'd be me, and sorry, the real Carl has to wait just a few minutes.
All
I
right.
just wanted to follow up our conversation about the Manilao Eagles Field, where the weather and the climate out there still remains the same. I think partly cloudy skies, sunshine, and the blue ocean just over the horizon. We understand the governor might be unilaterally making some decisions about how to sustain our economy and our climate. Meanwhile, she had a deadline to meet today. In fact, now that it's 5:02, it seems like 5:32, the Guam Business Day might be at an end. And we've not heard anything about her signing the lease that would, put the government in Guam into a binding relationship with the military regarding Eagles Field. Have you heard anything? And if you haven't, what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, I have covered the breaking news as it occurred, and the last thing that came out was that the governor, as you were, the admiral, announced that his lawyers and her lawyers were sitting down, seeing if they could work out some way to overcome the attorney general's objections. The admiral also said that if it can't be done by the deadline, then the decision would have to be made in Washington to extend the deadline. Now, if you scrape the paint and varnish off that, it goes back to what I've been saying from the get-go, that the 30-day deadline was basically a negotiation tool, that a skilled negotiator, in negotiation, somebody is hurt more by deadlock. One party is hurt more by deadlock than the other party. So the sooner that person has to face deadlock, the more pliable that person's going to be. So my suspicion is that from the get-go, the 30 days was a negotiation ploy, and the admiral intimated that he would carry Lou's request for an extension to the folks in Washington, but it was their decision. But I hypothesized that if that were the case, the first thing that would happen would be that some staffer back there would call Admiral Nicholson and say, "What do you think, Admiral?" And he could nix it, or he could give a thumbs up if he felt like it. So I don't think that the matter is over yet.
Okay. So it's then we're going to have more of this drama, because as she's making unilateral decisions regarding climate change, is that what we're hearing this Blue Initiative debate being about?
That's right.
This was a relatively unilateral decision on her part, because the legislature claims they weren't invited to the conversation in any meaningful way, and I think they're still demanding to be a part. You still there, sir?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
she's told us before. She told us way back, you have no say. And you got to give her high marks for consistency, Vince. When she said you have no say, she's really stuck to her guns on that one.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
She said way back at the beginning of the pandemic, she said, you have no say, when she was telling us, I can take over American Medical Center, I can make them do testing, I can make them do whatever I want. You have no say. So I'm saying you got to give her high marks for consistency, because she's really stuck with that. We have no say. You got some out-of-town Jasper in a pinchback suit who comes out here with his own propaganda pitch at the Hyatt, and she's committed to signing up with his organization without even talking with a single member of the legislature, as far as I know.
They're talking about the current conference with the Fancy Jasper, who's down there now, or if you're talking about that charrette or whatever it was they ran where they put Ken Leon and Guerrero in jail. I think it was the same venue. Both places are they're using the Hyatt. At least they're consistent with that as well. These unilateral decisions being made by by Governor Liu are getting very messy indeed. I mean, they do seem to put her at odds with a lot of people who thought we were in a democracy where, we did have a say.
Well, you know why they're I have a suspicion as to why they're using the Hyatt, Vince. It's because the preferred venue doesn't have enough room to handle that kind of crowd. There's no conference room on the 19th floor.
Ooh, but I'm Right, but they did pay $12 million for those empty rooms.
Yeah.
Dun.
Yeah, $12 million for well, think of how much more, it actually saved us money. Think of how much more they would have had to pay if those rooms were actually occupied. So that was an economy measure.
Yeah, that's true. So we're making money all over the place. Hopefully somebody else will get paid besides empty hotels that later on get shut down because apparently they're not good for anybody's health. The hotel we're talking about has not been able to take advantage of any of the new tourism that's being generated by GVB. Apparently, it's not suitable for human occupation anymore.
Could be.
But thank you for letting me get in front of our Carl. I apologize to him. I am sure he has something very important to say. Have a great weekend.
He's the most dangerous man in the room. Okay, Vince. See you later. Let's cue this up. Oh, there we go. The most dangerous man in the room. When Kaiser Soze goes to bed at night, he checks under the bed to see if our Carl is there. Go ahead, our Carl. Scare the hell out of us.
I just want to say Vince Akamoto is someone I will never regret giving way to. He always has something very insightful to say. So I listened with great attention. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in about, because you did touch on the climate issue and this climate alarm cult that has developed, and I just wanted to point out a huge hole in the movement. And there are lots of them, but this one is really, really big, and that is that they have treated CO2 as a pollutant. And in fact, CO2 is the foundation of life. It's why we're called carbon-based life forms. We come from one of the critical things that make up us is carbon dioxide, and it's also plant food. And one inconvenient thing is that right now the CO2 level, the carbon dioxide level, is about 410 parts per million. And, they're going into panic. Oh, this is horrible. This is terrible. It's the end of the world. But why more scientists don't say the fact that 540 million years ago, during the Cambrian period, the CO2 level was over 7,000 parts per million. It was over 15 times as high as it is today. And during the Cambrian period, there was an explosion of sea life, an explosion of plant life, an explosion of animal life. The planet wasn't burning up. So why more scientists don't point this out, I have no idea.
Well, here's an idea for you, Carl. I yesterday announced I finally figured out what the whole transgender movement is all about. We got all hung up about chromosomes and plumbing and things like that, etc. But that's not what it's all about at all. It goes back to that old saying, the issue is never the issue. The issue is the revolution. So with this whole climate thing, it's more neo-Marxism. You scare the hell out of the people, to convince them that the way they're living is wrong, that they've got to make all these changes so that they'll accept something that's ordinarily unacceptable. The issue is never the issue. The issue is the revolution.
I heard you say that yesterday, and it was a good reminder to me, because I remember hearing it and mentioning it sometimes, but I'd forgotten about it. And you're absolutely correct that the rising crime we see in the big cities, all these social issues, is meant to advance an agenda. And if they can create enough chaos, people will start clamoring for change. Just make it stop, And that is an ideal situation for Marxist socialism to be inserted, because people just want change. This is horrible. We need to, please make it stop. And so everything, all these social issues, there is an ultimate goal, and I agree 100%. And I'm glad you brought it up again, because I forgot about it, to tell you the truth, until you brought it up. But you're dead center.
Well, the law of averages catches up with me sometimes, R. Carl, and I actually get something right.
More than you know. Okay, Bob, thank you for allowing me to chime in. I sure appreciate it.
Thanks, R. Carl. Okay, I've got R. Keith here, and R. Keith is a gas. This time he wants to talk about CO2. Tell me about it, R. Keith.
Hi, Bob. I don't know about gas, but I think I have gas. No, I'm just kidding. Just sort of a follow-up or build upon, rather, something that Carl had said about the Cambrian and the CO2 concentration. There is ample geologic literature. I am a geologist by trade. There is ample geologic literature of not only CO2 concentrations over the past 750 million years, and that's essentially the period of time at which macroscopic life has existed on the planet. And macroscopic meaning greater than a bacterium. There was also ample geologic literature which can be used to calculate global temperature. And the way they do that is through oxygen isotope data. It's Delta 18 oxygen isotopes. Both indicate that right now we are at the lowest CO2 concentrations and the lowest, with the exception of some periodic ice ages, temperature globally than at any time in the past 650 million years, pardon me. It's provable. I mean, the data's out there. I can send people graphs. And the only reason I think, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on here, I for the longest while, I wondered why, since the data is out there, why there are not more people in my field, talking truth to power. Here's the data, folks. That's not true. And there are some of us, but of course, we're marginalized. We're not, the media doesn't report us because we don't support the agenda. But what's more troublesome is I think there are an awful lot of people in the sciences, physical sciences, and obviously social sciences, that I think their careers are made in pushing the agenda. You won't get a government grant saying there's no global warming or there's no, whatever the crisis du jour is. But you sure will get one for saying that there is and supporting governmental action on something. And that's the only thing I can conclude with all this. Now, taking a step back to the temperature and the CO2 data, people like to point to the fact that, it's the warmest it's been in 150 years. Who's going to argue that it's the warmest it's been, warmest summers and lowest glaciers in the past 100 years? Geologically, that's nothing. I mean, literally nothing. That is, the planet's been here for a couple billion. And like I said, we've got, reasonably accurate and complete data going back 650 million years. And you're going to tell me that data indicating that whatever has happened in the past 150 years is meaningful? No, it's not. But unfortunately, most people, and I'm sorry to sound, if this comes across as smug or condescending or arrogant, but most people are scientifically illiterate. And so they only know what is told to them on the news. And it's a shame. It really is, because they're being led. The only way that they're able to be led is that they're uninformed on the subject. So there you are.
Well put, Arkeith, and coming from a geologist, right?
Yes, 2 degrees in geology, 30 years in the business. And interestingly, my master's work was in the field of sea level rise and its effect on coastal environments. So while, no, I don't specifically study temperature and climate, I've studied and worked in evaluating the effects of sea level rise, which is another subject that's overblown. But I don't want to suck up too much of your time.
You know, that explains a lot, Arky, is because I've noticed that whenever you call, you really dig deep.
Yes.
Now we know.
Deep probing question. Yes.
Very good. Always good to talk to you, Arky. See you next week.
Thank you.
Okay, I got another Joe on the line. He wants to talk about global warming, but I want to go to Churchill Downs. So when we finish up at Churchill Downs, we'll talk to another Joe.
Always here to help you. This island is our home. Through the years, we've been a friend to the neighbors we have known. Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Half a day. This is Claire Manglona from Security Title with an important warning. Wire fraud is real, and home buyers and sellers are one of the biggest targets, even on Guam. When sending money by wire transfer, be sure to confirm the wire instructions by phone, not email. In this case, it's good to be suspicious and know who you're dealing with. Let the professionals at Security Title work with you to minimize loss due to wire fraud. We are here to help.
Okay, so here we are, as you were, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky. 6 furlongs, I crossed the finish line, and I will have completed a whole week of tall tales. Sad to say. In just a little less than 10 minutes, Jose and I turn into pumpkins. We hibernate, we disappear. We wallow in self-pity because we can't deal with our tailgater, our international radio listening audience of tailgaters for 70 straight hours. But we'll be back on Monday. We'll make it. We'll live through it. Okay, let's see what another Joe has got to say. Yes, sir, another Joe. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Uncle Bob. I can hear you.
Good deal.
So, all right. So, let me get down this background noise here. So, what do we know about climate change? It is in cycles, right? That's the theory. That's why there were ice ages and mini ice ages. In the more recent mini ice age, there was Renaissance in Europe. And you had arid land became more arable. There were bumper crops. There's plenty, and you had a cultural, like you said, Renaissance. So the question is are we in a cycle that is going to be beneficial or not? And how can we take advantage to the best use of the climate changes? Right now, we're talking about greenhouse gases, and it's not just carbon, Uncle Bob. You're talking about methane. Huge amount of, maybe just as much methane as there is carbon. And methane doesn't always come from cows, Uncle Bob. Methane comes from, like, in the northern regions where the permafrost is melting due to longer warm seasons. You look in the seas, and it's seeping out of the ground. So the question is, should we be turning our attention to making use of the methane and making that as a fuel source? The other greenhouse gases are volcanoes, Uncle Bob. So there's not much we can do to stop volcanoes now. And the other places would be these in Eastern Europe or the Mediterranean, where they have gases coming out of the ground and burning. As a matter of fact, on the East Coast, was it Pennsylvania, New York or Pennsylvania, there are coal mines that are are burning underground that they haven't stopped for decades. So if they really want to get control of this global warming, they should address all these different issues, Uncle Bob. Does that sound okay so far?
Sounds good to me, another Joe. But on the subject of methane, not only cows produce methane, humans introduce methane. I mean, also release methane into the atmosphere. But, for humans, the solution is really simple. It's called synchronized coughing.
Or Beano. It's it reduces the gas, so to speak. Anyway, so I just want to say I'm gonna miss you guys for 2 days. I think it's 2 days, and just keep listening about.
Okay, we'll see you Monday, another Joe. Okay, we've only got about 5 more minutes to go here. I don't think we have enough time to do the Leon Guerrero show, do we, Jose?
It was an all-call second half. I don't think so.
Yeah. And I can't go back into the Rules Committee meeting because we got a couple more clips, and I probably should begin that one again on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have something here that I could start on. That might fill in this last gap here, and it's called The Governor versus the Budget. Lawmakers are sharing their concerns and objections to the selective implementation of a recently enacted pay raise statute. On Wednesday, Senator Frank Blas sent a letter to the governor on Public Law 37-3, which funded 22% raises for government employees on the general pay plan and salary hikes for comparable workers of the judiciary, public defender, hospital, university, GCC, and mayor's council. Blas' concern stems from raises being paid as the beginning of the month, despite a provision in the law that states that it shall be implemented only after Leon Guerrero submits plans to address unpaid employee bonuses and increments and promised assistance to local businesses. Your belief that the implementation of the pay raise on April 1 is not affected by the termed restrictions in the bill is totally against the mandate of the law, Blas wrote. The restrictions were simply plans that could have been prepared and submitted well within the time that the bill was transmitted to you and when it was signed into law. In her March 31 signing letter, the governor told lawmakers she was pressing forward with her timeline to pay raises despite several restricting provisions contained in the bill, which she deemed to be severable. Now, this article doesn't do it justice because to me the real important thing here is that the budget bill that passed did not appropriate money for unclassified positions. And she said she was going to use her severability power to pay those raises, the 22% raises, anyhow. Now, this thing about not providing the plans, there is case law that says, that in the budgeting process, the legislature can't take over executive functions, but they can make appropriations conditional. So probably that's okay. But whether they do the plans or not, I'm not anywhere near as concerned about as I am her appropriating money to pay raises that the legislature said you can't pay.
Is that legal?
Well, it sounds like something they borrowed from Mike Santos over at the Department of Education, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it does not sound like it's legal. And when we're talking severability in statutes, that's that useless clause that the legislature puts on one section bills.
Notwithstanding?
No, severable, that it's severable. How do you sever? If you sever one section of the bill, there's nothing left. But they throw that and the effective date into every bill. That's what severability means. Severability means that if a court finds part of the bill, a part of the law unconstitutional, you sever that from the rest and the rest can go into force. Now, I've given a chapter and verse on that before. The severability clauses are pretty much a waste of ink. But if they have any impact at all, it's something that a court uses, not a governor when she's signing a bill. So I don't know where she got that crazy idea that she could sever that. Now, I did explain a couple days ago that in an appropriation matter, when money is appropriated, the governor can sign the bill into law, but reduce or even reduce to zero the appropriation. So she can go through the budget law, and the part she doesn't like, she can reduce or reduce to zero. But she can't do that with a substantive section, much as she'd probably like to. So I don't know where she gets off with that one. Attorney General Douglas Moylan, reached by the Post, said he was willing to comment generally on the governor's powers to implement local laws, but clarified he was not commenting specifically on the pay raise statute. The governor, or any government official for that matter, is not supposed to be cherry-picking what they agree with and what they don't agree with, he said in a phone interview. The severability clause, which concludes the pay raise, is also found elsewhere in the Guam law, according to Moylan. Generally, it provides that a provision of local statute found to be invalid may be severed without affecting the remaining lawful part. Just what I told you. So I'm going to say goodbye to the Red Queen and to our president. Let's go, Brandon.
Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The alleged leaker has been arrested. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. A young Air National Guardsman taken into custody by the FBI Thursday at his family's home in North Dayton, Massachusetts.
The alleged leaker was identified by Attorney General Merrick Garland as 21-year-old Jack Teixeira of the 102nd Intelligence Wing of the Massachusetts Air National Guard. According to the Air Force, he was promoted to Airman First Class last July. He worked as a systems communications specialist for his unit, and that's how he accessed some of the nation's biggest secrets.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon. Attorney General Garland says Teixeira will be charged under the Espionage Act. His case could be moved into the military justice system as he was on active duty. Some are asking how the intelligence community missed sensitive documents that were available online for weeks. Florida's Governor DeSantis has signed a new abortion ban into law. It would prevent the procedure after a fetal heartbeat can be detected, typically about 6 weeks into a pregnancy. But a court challenge is considering the state's current 15-week ban. The governor has also declared a state of emergency in Broward County, Florida, after drenching rains triggered unprecedented flooding.
I didn't expect this because I've lived here since 1960. The same house, never had a trouble with water in my house.
Several people stranded by floodwaters had to be rescued in boats. City of Minneapolis shelling out $9 million to settle lawsuits filed by two people who say former police officer Derek Chauvin restrained them with a knee to their neck during police encounters in 2017. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry apologizing.
He should have been fired in 2017. He should have been held accountable in 2017.
Instead, Chauvin remained on the force until his May 2020 encounter with George Floyd, who died after being restrained in the same manner. Chauvin was fired and convicted of Floyd's murder. America is listening to Fox News.
Today, going far beyond the headlines, tapping into the massive reporting resources of Fox News to provide a full picture of the news of the day.
I'm Dana Perino.
I'm Brett Baer.
I'm Maria Bartiromo.
I'm Brian Kilmeade, and this is the Fox News Rundown.
Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, this is